Hello everyone, it's Deb Floros of Deb Loves Jewelry. I'm back working with another SoftFlex mystery design kit. This one is called Fabulous Flamingo. I'm getting a little bit of a late start this month doing this one, but I'm so excited about the contents of this. So of course, the packaging is amazing and matches this kit perfectly. There's our flamingo, so adorable. And I always save the packaging because it just makes me smile. So I'm opening it up and finding out for the first time what those contents are. And I'm finding that we have some incredible SoftFlex this month, the turquoise color, which is one of my favorite SoftFlex colors. This is going to be really beautiful with all of these amazing crystals, the Fabulous Flamingo Jesse James beads mix. And look at all of these extra goodies. There's some little pieces to make glasses holders. And there are these amazing, I think they're stainless steel flamingo charms. And of course, we have silver crimps and ear wires and a clasp. Look at the shapes of these crystals. I'm crazy about them, and they go perfectly with this mix that has some bead frames, has some ceramic beads, has some really cool flower beads that are center drilled. And these bead caps, these I love. I've seen these in Jesse James beads mixes before. There are so many cool pieces and parts. And these big chunky beads from SoftFlex are so cool. Here's those charms. And these little turquoise blue beads are singing my song. So I'm pulling out some of the things I'm thinking about. And what I'm going to do is make some fun little flower almost button-like components. And I've got about a foot of 24 gauge SoftFlex craft wire. I'm grabbing one of those reddish flower caps and then dropping on another one of the fun little AB finish flower caps and then that turquoise bead at the center. And what I'm going to do is just push this down towards the center of my wire, and then I'm going to take the wire, bend it back over and skip over that turquoise bead, but go down through the two floral pieces. 24 gauge wire works very nicely with this. 22 might be a little too chunky for this. So I think 24 gauge is perfect. So now I've got a little stacked piece. I'm going to give it just one little twist, and then I'm going to pull my wires together, grab some round nose pliers, and I'm going to do a wire wrap loop with both pieces of wire. That's going to make a nice chunky loop. And then I'm going to wrap both pieces of wire around, and that's going to make a nice chunky back to this piece. So it's nice and substantial. 24 gauge wire could be a little wonky if it's just one single piece, but I like it with two, trimming off my excess, and then I'm coming in with some chain nose pliers just to tighten up the end of that wire and give us a nice silvery back to this really fun little flower piece. So I'm going to create 4 of these, and I'm just going to do the same thing. I'll show you one more time. I'm stacking the flower pieces, and that first flower piece has a flat back. I'm stringing on the flat back towards the bottom and the flat back of the yellow one. Then putting on that little turquoise bead, skipping over the turquoise bead, bending my wire down and through. And then I've got my little stack of beads, giving it then a little bit of a twist. And then coming in with my round nose pliers and creating a wire wrap loop. So doubling the wire is going to give us some stability of this piece. Now you can use these pieces for buttons. You can use them with earrings, on necklaces. I'm going to put these onto a simple bracelet. So here I'm trimming off the excess, and then I'm coming in with my chain nose pliers and just cleaning up the end of that wire and giving us a nice chunky back to this piece. And they are so, so cute. I'm crazy about them. I love the color combination. So here's one more, just going back through the two floral pieces, skipping over that bead and then pulling the wire down tight. And you will see the wire on one side of your bead, but it's barely noticeable. And with some silver accents to this bracelet, it will go together just nicely. So twist and then create a wire wrap loop with your round nose pliers. Just give yourself a nice chunky wrap around those components. It'll keep them nice and tight and create some consistency. And so tightening up those pieces of wire and then trimming off my excess, and I'll tighten up the little edge of the wire with my chain nose for this one. So cute. I just love these. They are so adorable, so cute. I'm going to create one more, and here I am just stacking on my pieces. You could throw in one of those silver bead caps into the mix here as well if you like. Skipping over that turquoise bead, going back down through those two components and pulling that all tight so the bead is close to those bead cap pieces, giving it a twist, and then coming in with my round nose and creating a wire wrap loop. I love these. I'm just in love with them. And again, you can do all kinds of fun things with these. Buttons come to mind. You can dangle these from a necklace. I'm going to put them on a bracelet and string them on through the loops that I've created. So just fixing up that one, and here's how they came out. So adorable, so cute. I love the colors, just so much fun. And I've got consistent loops all across the backs. Now let's make them with a bracelet. So I'm going to take the turquoise SoftFlex beading wire, and I'm going to grab some 11/0 seed beads in silver. And I'm just doing a very simple stringing project here. So picking out my crystal beads, and then I'm going to add one of those kind of donut shaped components. It's a piece of metal that's in the bead mix from Jessie James Beads. And I'm going to string on all of my flowers, just like that, onto the wire. And they're going to sit next to that little bead spacer. I'm also adding seed beads there to make sure that they sit next to the spacer on both sides. So I've got a spacer on either side of those little flower components, and then I'm adding one of those little green beads on either side so that brings in some of that turquoise. And then I'm just going to do the same pattern on the other side. Super easy bracelet, but fun, fabulous component in the center, a focal section that's just got lots of color and movement, and it's just really fun. So I love how that looks. I'm going to give that a try on my wrist to see how it works. And I think I'm going to need a couple more beads at each end. So I'm using my bead stoppers to make sure I don't spill my beads as I add them on to both sides. And I did add 2 seed beads in between each bead. You can do all beads, or you can do more seed beads in between. You can add some of the metal, whatever you like. But I love how this looks. That focal component is so much fun. So for me, it's just all about kind of framing that focal section. And there's so many colorful beads in this design kit that you can choose whatever colors you like, whatever configuration and pattern of beads you'd like. And I'm going to use just a simple lobster claw closure, which I love to do with SoftFlex wire. So I'm going to grab some of those amazing crimps, and then through one side, I'm just going to create a loop. That's going to be how I will attach my lobster claw. So it's showing off that beautiful turquoise color of the wire. So I've got my loop. I want it to be big enough that my lobster claw will attach, but not so big that it looks awkward or weird. So I'm attaching that, crimping that on, and you could add a charm to it if you like, or another bead that's wire wrapped as a dangle. On the other side, what I'm going to do is add the lobster claw just in the same fashion. So I'm making sure my piece isn't straight, and I'm pushing my wire down through the crimp tube, and then I'm pulling it down so that I have a nice loop that will allow my lobster to move and also be comparable to the other side loop at the closure. There we have it. That's how it will close. There's our focal. So pretty. I'm crazy about it, and it's just fun. So let's do a ring. I was inspired by some of the pieces and parts here. So I've got about 2 feet of the 24 gauge wire. You could probably do 24, but 22 will allow you to move the wire through the beads, which is what I want to do more than once. So I'm stringing on one of those beautiful crystals. It's a rondelle shape in the center. And then I'm grabbing some of the metal components, those same kind of donut shape spacers and those pink rondelles, rhinestone rondelles. And then there are some little pagoda shaped crystals from the Jesse James Beads mix as well. And I'm going to grab a ring sizer, and I'm going to put the piece around and just kind of start it in a size that's much larger, like maybe 2 sizes larger than what I need. And then that's going to give me the basic shape. And then I'm going to pull the wire back up and go through the beads. So I'm going back through, so to speak, the beads. So what I'm doing is creating a loop at the bottom, which is going to be the base of the ring. This is a really basic, simple wire wrap ring. Anybody can do this. So now you see I've got wire coming from both ends. Then I'm going to go back on the other side and pull the wire up around and go through my beads again. So I'm pushing that wire. Getting the 24 gauge through is a little bit tough at this stage because the wire is so pliable. So once you do that, I put it back onto the ring mandrel, closer to the size that I need. And I'm going to push that wire along the side of the ring mandrel, and I'm creating some wraps around the beads, kind of along the side, actually around the wire next to the beads, but I'm using the ring mandrel to help me do that for the first few wraps, just to get this secured in the size that I want. Then I'm going to start wrapping with my fingers. So 24 gauge wire should go nicely around and around your 2 sides of the ring. So you're just going to create multiple wraps around, and you can decide how many you like look-wise. I like a nice chunky wrap around both sides. It's going to give me security, and it's also going to, kind of bling up the sides of the ring. So you've got 2 pieces of a wire around the bottom. So you're just wrapping your wire and bringing those 2 pieces of wire together and just getting a nice chunky wrap around both sides of your beads. And I love how this looks. I just love the look of the metal and the pink here. It's so pretty. Pink is one of my latest obsessions. It's actually my favorite color. So it's just coming out in my designs everywhere lately. And I'm just wrapping and wrapping. And this will take some time, and you'll want to take it slow to get the wire in either a very precise wrap or a messy wrap if you like. So you may need to use a tool to help you once the wire gets a little bit shorter. So you can use some chain nose pliers to pull that wire through and just keep wrapping till you're happy. And I can't tell you how many wraps I did, but I did quite a number of them. And then what I did was when I was happy, I did a little fit check to make sure that the ring fit. And then I snipped off the edges or the ends of my wire and tightened up that wire end with some chain nose pliers. I'm just kind of pressing that in, pressing it towards the wraps, and then it's all about making sure it looks right on your hand. And oh my gosh, I love how this looks. It's so pretty, so feminine, and a very flamingo color, I must say. So I'm loving how this looks. I'm going to put it back on the mandrel one more time, and I'm going to just kind of twist the mandrel. I use a wood mandrel, and here you have it. A ring and a bracelet, super, super fun. These SoftFlex mystery design kits give me so much joy to work with. You can find them at softflexcompany.com. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again soon.